Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Francisco Otero. I'm going to start the webinar in about 5 minutes. So it's 3 minutes to the hour, and then usually we give 2 minutes after that. So we'll start in 4 minutes now. Thanks for joining. Hey, good morning, everyone that just joined in. We'll start this presentation in 3 minutes from now. Hey, good morning. Thanks for joining. Top of the hour. We'll wait 2 minutes. I'll start at 12:02. We'll start in 2 minutes. Hey, thanks for people who just joined in. We'll be starting in 1 minute. We'll start at 12:02. All right, 12:02. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. This is Francisco Otero. I'm Senior Sales Engineer for Vigilon. Today's topic, OSDP. So let's find out what that is. Can one of my team confirm that you guys can hear me okay?
Sounding good, man.
Awesome, thanks.
Good.
So the agenda for today, so what is OSDP, how to use it, how to configure. We have some supporting material and also questions and answers. So a couple of things here. So you will see that in the webinar tool, you have a handouts. There's about 4 documents in there that you can download if you want to. It's the presentation itself, the one that we're using here. There is some wiring diagrams and a few other things in there that you can utilize. So feel free to download those. Also, any questions, by all means, please throw those questions at the questions section of this webinar where my teammates are looking into it, and they will be answering throughout this demonstration. So don't wait until the end. You can start asking questions as soon as you have some, as soon as you have some questions to ask. Also, I'm going to be starting with a poll here, and throughout this presentation, we're going to do some polls. I would appreciate if you guys vote on it. Okay, so we'll get started in polls in just a little bit. So actually, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and throw one right off the bat. Let's go ahead and just do this one here. I'm launching a poll right now. So if you maximize screen, you might have a problem to see the poll. So if you've seen this screen maximize, just go ahead and hit escape in your keyboard. You should come out of maximize, and then you should be able to see the poll that I just launched. And we would appreciate. So I'm going to give about 45 seconds to answer. So if you could, please go ahead and vote on that. We would appreciate. This give us information and how do you feel about those products, and it give us product management also some visibility to what's out there today and how we can better serve you guys. All right, so with 30 seconds in, I'll give another 15 seconds, 45 seconds, and then we keep going with this presentation. All right, good turnout. 60, almost 70% of people already answered. That's awesome. Thank you for that. All right, we going to close the poll right now. Once again, thank you. I will start another poll in just a little bit. So let's go ahead and close this one. All right, thanks for answering this poll. Okay, let's take a look at it. So what is OSDP? So this is it's called a Open Supervised Device Protocol. So this is a protocol that was created by a collaboration between HID, Mercury, and a software company called Codebench, which HID later on purchased that company. So they created this standard or this protocol, and then they passed that to the SIA, so the Security Industry Association. And the idea behind this protocol is to provide some standardization and how we communicate the communication between reader and reader port. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that in this presentation. So why OSDP? So it allows different manufacturers to integrate different readers with, again, with your reader ports, provide some more flexibility. So you have some functionality that in other readers you have to provide extra configuration. So for example, tampering, OSDP provides tampering right off the gate. So you have that just by wiring the reader in OSDP format, something that if you want to do tampering, or in this case, a supervised reader using Wigan, you do have to create, or depending on the reader, you would have to use more. You have to create a circuitry to provide that functionality. So it's a little bit more complicated. OSDP pretty standard, pretty simple to do that. Provides bidirectional communication. So that's a pretty good thing because I can now control, for example, LED mode in the reader. I can change the LED colors using OSDP. Actually, pretty simple. And the main reason why this protocol was invented is provides encrypted communication. So now we're talking about having encryption from every step of the way in that card read. So when you present the card to a reader and the reader reads that card, the information then can be encrypted, sent between the reader and the reader port. That's where OSDP plays. It will be encrypted there, then goes into the controller. The controller makes the decision into opening or not opening the door, right? So the door is open. And then the controller will send that transaction, that badge read, into the access control, in our case using TLS encryption. So again, the communication can be encrypted every step of the way. If you use a standard Wigan, it is not encrypted. So it is possible for someone to tap in the line, in that reader line, and read that that transaction, read that event that's coming in across the wire. Okay, so Wigan not encrypted, OSDP is a encrypted communication. Okay. Next here, and I think that's probably one of the best arguments for you to use OSDP today, is reader distance. So if you're talking about Wigan, you can do a maximum of 500 feet between the reader itself and the reader port. So that wire there can have a maximum of 500 feet. OSDP, you can go up to 4,000 feet. Okay. Obviously, this is a controlled environment in a lab. I would not suggest anyone to go all the way to 4,000 feet on that. And also power, right? So if you're doing this, you need to power this reader locally. Okay, and we'll cover more about power and some limitations, some things that we need to do along this presentation. And I think I mentioned this a little bit before, but again, another advantage that is with OSDP, I can now control the reader color from the software, from the access control, not just so wiring. So today, if you do Wigan, you basically have two color options. You either do red and green, or maybe green and yellow, or red and yellow, depending how do you wire, depending on the reader and how you wire that Wigan, right? So it's a physical thing. So you only have those options. If you do Wigan, I'm going to show you here in just a little bit, you can actually have more colors, and I can control that on the software side. So it makes it a lot easier to control colors on that sense. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So how do you how to configure OSDP? And I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide here. Found this on the internet. You will see this slide all over the place. So if you look for OSDP wiring with a Mercury controller, you most likely will come across this. And this presents a problem. And the problem is there's two readers here being wired, which looks like, in this case here, in this design, looks like a 1501, looks like a Mercury 1501 controller, or for that matter, any of the controllers. This controller or any of those Mercury controllers will not have enough power to power multiple readers. Okay, so when you're doing this, if you're doing multiple readers, you can do the wiring, the RS-485 wiring, that because that's what it is an RS-485. ODBC runs on RS-485. You can daisy chain that, but you have to power the reader locally. Okay, you have to power the reader locally. The controllers just do not provide enough power to power multiple readers in one port. Okay, if you're doing OSDP and wiring one reader per port, then you're okay to grab power from the reader port. In this case would be right there. That's my reader port right there. I would go ahead and grab power and ground from that reader port. If I'm doing multiple readers, then you need to provide an external power supply. Look for your reader, whatever reader type you're using. Usually you'll see a variation on the reader. Some can go as low as 9 volts to 16, really depends on the reader. So again, look into the reader reference manual or data sheet or a manuals to find out power and amperage that you need to provide on that reader. Okay, so do not, again, do not, I hope it is red X here, it gives that idea. Do not power multiple readers, multiple OSDP readers from the controller. It's just not going to work. We've seen some people trying that before, and it causes the controller to sometimes it's just to pretty much lock down or turn off, or if it doesn't, it starts to give you some bad readings. It does all sorts of wrong things, so you do not want to do that. Okay, so multiple readers, please provide an external power supply to that. I know I'm beating the horse to death in here. Just want to make sure that everybody understands that it's a problem there. Okay, so make sure that you provide external power supply. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw another poll here real quick, just to get a sense, and this is a pretty easy one, just to get a sense for if you guys have seen OSDP before or not. So if you could please answer that, we would appreciate. Again, if you're in maximize screen, just click escape in your keyboard. It should come out of maximize, and you should be able to see the volt feature in there. If you can't, for some reason, if you can't vote, you can use the question section. Just go ahead and put your vote in there. We'll gather that information as well if that makes it easier. Okay, thanks. I'll give another 15. Oh, we still have people answering, so I'll give another 30 seconds, so we do a full minute on that, and then we'll go ahead and keep going. And I'll continue to explain this a little bit in here. So you will see in just a little bit that some other boards you can wire multiple readers to a port, and that's the situation where you need to be careful, making sure that you have external power supply for those readers. Okay. All right, so full minute there. We good. Thank you so much for answering the poll. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. So, wow, very few people are actually using OSDP today. I hope by the end of this webinar, you have a better sense of what OSDP is and what it can do for you. So interesting. We got a good opportunity here to change it out a little bit. Okay, so here is a little bit more information on OSDP. So all Mercury controllers, Series 3, Series 2 as well, but Series 3 breadboards, they all support OSDP. And you could use multiple readers per port. Example there, the MR62, you can do up to 4 readers per MR62. We'll cover that in just a little bit because there is a limitation. Well, let's talk about that right now. So the limitation is this: you can do 4 readers, but they have to be in and out readers. So in essence, 2 doors. So you're still bound to the limitation of 2 doors. You could put 4 readers if you want to do in and out readers. Okay, so that's a limitation on that. So you're not going to be able to put 4 separate readers on a MR62E. Okay, has to be 2 doors or in and out readers for that. The majority of the case that you're going to see out there is going to be this diagram right here. I'm going to wire one OSDP reader that can go up to 4,000 feet, and I'm going to wire this in one port. Here's the exception. Here you see that this is wired power and ground directly here. If you're getting any near close 4,000 feet, please wire this reader power locally. It will not be very wise to do this over 4,000 feet and try to power the reader there, okay, out there. So for short distances, as you normally would do for a reader, then yes, you're more than fine of doing that, and actually makes the installation a lot simpler. Instead of using 6 wires, you're now down just to 4 wires. You need ground, GPI01 and GPI02, depending on the manufacturer, they're going to call this different. It's basically clock and data, TR positive and negative, whatever you want to call it. So A and B is another nomenclature we see out there, and power. Okay. So if you do standard Wigan today, you actually wiring 6 wires, right? So you need to do the buzzer, you need to do the LED, and ground, power, data, and clock. Okay, so Wigan, less wires. So you save a little bit of money there when you're doing wiring. And simpler distance-wise also provides you a better solution. If you're doing a standard address 0, that's what all the readers come up configured for, then basically it's a pretty simple install. You don't need to change a whole lot of things. It's wire the reader and basically go in ACM and tell ACM that is an OSDP reader, and that should come up ready to go. Okay. A couple more things in here. Reader needs to be OSDP compatible. So that there is readers out there today that they are compatible with that. HID provides a reader. I'm not going to cover this in just a second. They provide a reader application, an app, a reader management app that allow you to configure that reader. So you can go and modify a couple of things. Depending on the manufacturer, you might have the capability or not. Some are doing through different like card configuration or don't provide that at all. So some are just providing address 0 and that's it. You have to deal with that. So really depends on the reader manufacturer. So depending which one you utilize, you just need to be careful with that. Okay. Next slide here. So again, depends on the reader manufacturer protocol is there or not. So you need to, before you venture out there and doing OSDP, just make sure that the reader is capable of doing that. Some of the readers are now coming, especially HID. Some of them are coming enabled from factory for OSDP. So if you want to use Wigan, you will have to use their HID mobile application to switch from OSDP to Wigan. I found that I had a situation with a customer last week where they were trying to connect a reader and the reader would not come online. They were doing Wigan, it would not come online, and then we came to find out that those readers now are coming off with the OSDP turned on. So in their case, they went back with the software and changed that to Wigan. Okay. Again, OSDP I think is just easier to configure, and if you reader support, I think you should take advantage of. If you're doing HID readers, the mobile readers, the ones that come with a Bluetooth antenna in the back, is that silver box in the back, they do provide a capability. They come in loaded with OSDP functionality. Some of the Allegiant readers are there too, the MT11, the MT15, and MTK. They do provide support. Normally address 0 if you want to deviate from that. In other words, if you want to plug multiple readers in the same port, then, or 2 readers in the same port, then just contact the sales engineer team from Avigilon. We'll try to help you with that. Okay. There is some configuration needed to support that. If it's address 0, you're not going to change and you're just going to use 1 reader per port, then you should be fine with that. So let's take a look in the HID application. So what I'm going to do is share my screen over here real quick. So let's go ahead and give me 1 second. Firing up an application here to allow me to show my screen. And let's go here and enable that guy. Okay. All right, so this is my phone right here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my application here. All right, so let's go ahead and come off that. There's a little bit of delay between the application and my, so you're looking at is my phone. So I just projecting the image or the screen of my phone on screen here, okay? So this is their application. So you have a couple of things. I'll give you a little tour on the app. Down here at the bottom, you have the option to create templates. So in other words, you can save a configuration and apply that configuration to a reader automatically. So you can go select the reader and say apply this configuration, and now you get the reader configured in that, the way you want it. Okay. Some of the settings in here, this will allow you to add your account. I have my account created, so you will need an account. You also will need a invitation, a code to connect to the readers. So HID will not give you access to configure a reader if you're not assigned or if you're not connected to that. In my case, HID called this a mobile number. So I have a mob number for Avigilon. So all the readers that come up with that mob number, I have access to operate that reader. If you don't, then you need to contact HID or whoever managing that account to give you a code, a valid code. They can email the code to you, and you just have to click this, enter a valid code. This screen comes up, you enter the code, and if it's valid, that will then give you access to that mob number, which then give you access to the readers that are configured for that mob. Okay, so this is to prevent someone from just using the software and going and trying to reconfigure a reader that is on the wall. Once you have the mob number, back here to the home screen, then you can go and search for the reader here. This will search the reader. Before we go there, let's take a look at this here for a second. So there is some helpful information here, which is pretty cool. So you can go ahead and click in that first option there. Will give you an overview how this process works, how you connect to the reader. So it's a little manual here. You can take a look at it in here. Okay, back. OSDP upgrade, so some information for readers that you might have. How do I upgrade that? How do I add? Is this reader capable of? Can I add the antenna, that Bluetooth antenna in the back, and make the reader now become OSDP compatible? And now I'm talking exclusively HID readers. Okay, so this is the HID application. Firmware update. How would you do firmware update? So there is a little instruction here on how to do that. And then there is a useful guide there. So this is a full guide for that. So next step, let's go ahead and scan for readers. I have shut off all my other readers. So just to make this easy, it's just going to show one. If I have multiple readers, they will show up in this list here. You'll see multiple readers in here. I can stop searching. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Stop search because I only have one turned on. I can click on that. And if I'm not sure, let's say I have multiple readers, I'm not sure which one it is. Depending on the reader, this number here will change, indicating which one is closer to you. So the dB minus 66, so I'm pretty close to the reader. You'll see that number changing. If you're not sure which reader is which, you can actually click in this locate, and this will make the readers flash and beep at the same time, so that it gives you a visual indication and an audible too, which reader you are referring, right? Because they will have the same name there, so we will see, and then you can go and change it, okay? In this case, I know which reader it is. I'm just gonna go ahead and click here, inspect, and this will connect to the reader itself. It takes a little bit of time for the reader to come up, and you will see that the reader will, I can connect to it. And the idea, you should be pretty close to the reader, okay? And then this screen comes up. So I can apply a template to it. I can change the name of my reader right there, okay? That's the mob that is in my reader right now. If I click on this, I can actually delete that mob and try, add a different one into it. Be careful with that. Here, the details. So this is where you go to do all the configuration. This is telling you what firmware is available and which one the reader has loaded. So I did update mine and is running the latest. You gotta be careful here. And when you try to do this firmware update, which is convenient, is the firmware will show up in there. So that's great. I don't need to go search for it. It's there. You have to be careful one thing, and it will tell you in the software, when you apply this available firmware, it will tell you right there that you should keep the phone running. So don't lock the screen, leave the phone running. It takes about 5 or 6 minutes. So you want to make sure that your phone is open for that amount of time, because otherwise it could disconnect from the reader and then you have to restart the firmware process again. Okay, so just be careful with that. I did this reader here. It's an RPK 40 from HID. And it took about 5 to 6 minutes, and then after that the reader was updated, rebooted, and came back and showed me that screen. All right, and then below here it tells you what antennas are turned on in this reader, what this reader can work on. Okay, so we're talking about, so here is OSDP. Notice that WIGN is not there. When OSDP is turned on, WIGN will be turned off. So there's only one option. You can either pick one or the other. You cannot have the two open automatically. And there is an option here to share this information with HID. I have no idea what happens after you do that, if someone is going to try to contact you or not. Might be interesting to try. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get in here into the details of this application. So it's loading up. And brings you to this screen. Okay, you can click on the credential and we'll show you what credentials are enabled. So you can go in here and disable certain credentials in this reader if you want to. So I'm trying to use my mouse to rotate this, and for some reason I was like, oh, why is this screen not going up? No, it's my phone, so I gotta use my phone. So I want to eliminate procs. I want to close procs. I don't want anyone to be using procs. I can just go here, turn procs off, and that's it. Then in this case, or turn off all these other options and might say, I'm going to use just iClass, and that's the only thing I'm going to let them utilize. Okay, and then over here is for your mobile if you want to let them use mobile credentials. Okay, back. Keys right there. That's my mobile key for this reader. If you have another key, you can add the key in there. And then a couple other things in here. And this one is pretty interesting. So if you, let's say that you have a credential that is not fully compatible, or is not even, in this case, this is an HID reader. I'm using a credential that is not HID. And for that matter, I'm not going to be able to open the encrypted box inside of that credential. So I'm dealing with a smart credential. And I'm just going to read the external serial number, the CSN. So if I'm doing that, then I can actually click on this option right here and select what format output I want to receive for that particular number, for that particular format. I think by default it's just 32. You can configure to one of those different bytes. So this is not the encrypted number of a credential. This is the external user ID. So it's a serial number that credentials will have in case you're connecting this to a reader that is not capable of decrypting the secure sector of that credential, of that token, of that badge. Okay, so you can go ahead and add that. A couple more things in here, and this is when it start to get interesting. So now I can go here and configure the Bluetooth configuration. So here's the HID. Usually you're going to tap on that. HID is necessary in the software. If you change that to any of these other options in here, you better contact them first. So they need to understand, or it is very specific when using. Normal by default is HID right there. Okay. Tap, allow tap. So that means I can grab my phone with the application running in the background and just get closer, tapping the reader, and that's my credential, right? It's to mimic the same motion that you would do with a plastic badge. You're doing this is for your mobile credential. Okay, so this is for the mobile application. Twist and go. So I have my enable. I'll show you here in a second how that works. Basically, you're holding your phone and you twist your wrist, simulating that you're opening a door handle. That's the idea of this twist and go. And you can do this from a distance. You can control the distance right here. I'm doing this from about 5 feet, 6 feet from my reader, and it does work. So it depends on, it says here from approximately 1 to 10 feet. So it really depends on what is in between, right? And this will eliminate the need for you to get close and tap into the reader, or you can just twist and go. And this down here is a special feature. So if you have an app, like I have in my phone, in my watch, I have an Apple Watch, and it does have an app, the same app for my mobile credential. I can use that app to actually go look in my phone and just tap and open the door using my phone. So I can have my watch. I can have my phone in my pocket and just look in my watch, pull up the app, and just hit the unlock button, and the door opens. Okay, so that's this right here needs to be turned on for that. Okay, and then it talks about range and power of that reader, and I can add this to a template. So I can create a template, save all those configurations. So if I'm doing this in multiple readers, then I configure one reader and then use that template to push that configuration to other readers. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. Now, the real important one is this one right here, and maybe audio visual too. Let's talk about communication right there. This is where you're going to choose between Wigan right there and OSDP. So notice that OSDP is turned on and Wigan is turned off. If I try to turn on Wigan, then OSDP gets disabled. Okay, so right there, like that. Okay, it disables OSDP. There's no other option. So if I turn one on, the other one goes off. Right over here, specifications. V1 is the standard that comes with. If you want to use secure, encrypted secure or secure mode, then get in contact with us. We'll try to help you to configure that, or HID, because that is a little bit of a configuration that needs to be done in here. This app sometimes could be a little bit challenging in some things. So you think it's behaving in a way and it's not executing properly what you want. So, and there is some tricks in here. I discovered that. I was trying to change the address in here. Mine had an address 3 because I was doing some other tests. I was trying to put this back to address 0, and it was telling me that, yeah, I got the address, and I would go back and reload it, and it would come back to address 3. So then I finally move this to Wigan, save it, and move it back to OSDP, save it again, and then I change the address, and then it took it. So it might have a few things like that. So if you're planning in using secure sector, in other words, secure mode, encrypting the communication in OSDP between the reader and the controller, get in contact with us, get in contact with the sales engineering team. We'll go ahead and help you with that. We have some documentation on that we can provide and give a little bit more guidance. Okay, so that's communication. Again, this is where you address the reader. Okay, and if you want to change the address, just click on it, and here's all the addresses that are going to display. Okay, I'm going to keep that as address 0. Going back, and here's an interesting one. So visual, audio and visual. I can actually change the color of the LEDs. Once again, I'm talking about HID readers. Okay, this application will control the HID readers, and I can change these colors in the reader. Now, there is a caveat to that. If you have this reader configured to OSDP and is configured to ACM, ACM LED control will take over. It will change that. Now, if the reader, here's the funny thing, if the reader is configured to Wigan, then you can go in this application and change the colors the way you want it, and the reader will maintain. The problem is the limitation in what colors you'll be able to use under that, and what you're gonna get when we read a valid credential. So it's a little bit limited. I prefer to use on the OSDP, much easier, and you'll see in a bit, I'm gonna show you that. Has some really clever things that we all should be using today to give a visual indication, visual cue to our card holders, to people that are using those readers. Okay, so that's right there. It's just reader color configuration. Credential, same principle. It's just when you read a card, what color is going to come up. Again, if you're using OSDP and you're using this with ACM, we'll control that. A couple of other settings in here. You can talk about power. This velocity checking is an interesting feature. If you enable this, if someone hits that reader, you get informed, which basically does the same thing for if you do the Wigan, the OSDP line is basically a supervisioning line. Power, you can manage power on this. I really don't see the point in there if you need to change that or lower the power. I think it would be interesting to figure out how this would impact the use of that reader, right? So if it's in a place where you don't use the reader much, maybe you have a cell tower antenna where this is installed, and once in a while someone goes over there, that might be an interesting option. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and close that as well. And there's some keypad settings in there, but that's basically it. So once you do the change, you have to save that to the template and then apply the template here. And once you do it, you will see that I can go here and apply that. It has no configuration. I'm going to go ahead and just go here to visual, just to do something. I'm going to go ahead and change this to that. Add. So I just changed it to Cyan, right? So now go in here and add to template. Okay, so you can see that it's a change. So I executed a change on that template. I'm going to go ahead and click the X to get out of this. And then I can go ahead and apply that setting, save to the template and apply that setting to the reader. Okay, once you're done with that, that's basically you can come off of that, close the inspection of this reader here, and then you can move to the next one. So start scan again and go move to the next reader and go do the process. If you already saved the configuration as a template, again, now you can go and change that to the next reader. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and come off this application here. Let's push this out of the screen so I don't run out of time here. Okay, close that, and let's push this out of the way. Come on. Oh, it's just been difficult to me now. There. All right. So back here to the presentation. So that's the HID application. If you have any questions, the application itself, you can contact the HID tech support, or you can contact the sales engineering team who try to help you with that as well. Okay. A couple more things in here. ACM templates are already configured for OSDP, so I'm going to show you that right now. So if you're doing a configuration and you're adding readers, here's an extra advantage of doing that using OSDP is that our templates are also configured for OSDP, so it's much easier to go this way. Okay, so there's no reconfiguration needed. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw another poll here real quick. Just to get a sense for that, I'm going to open this one up right now. Once again, if you maximize screen, just hit the escape button out there in your keyboard, and then it'll come off maximize, and you should be able to see this. Let's give it another 30 seconds. Yeah.
Hey, Francisco, it's Jared. I did want to bring up, there is the option for addressing Allegion MT series readers using a configuration card. If you need to get a hold of those cards, you will need to reach out to Allegion directly. We don't have access to them in our price book, nor do we have the ability to get them. However, I have received a couple, and they do apparently they do work with the Allegion readers, so you will be able to address 0 through 3 for Allegion readers as well. But it's not the same process as HID by using a mobile app today. That is something that they are looking at in the future, as well as a mobile application for their readers to be able to make a lot of the similar changes as you guys are seeing here with HID.
Right, good call, Jared. Yeah, that's right. So Allegion does use a different process. I think I mentioned a little bit in the beginning. So they use cards. So you have to present a card, and there is a whole process for you to address that, right? So you have to turn off the reader, and then there is a sequence of events that you need to do to change that address. Now, if you're going to use just one reader per reader port, one OSDP per reader port, which is what we suggest, then you don't need to change anything, either for HID, Allegion, or any other. You should be fine, because by default, they all come in with address 0, which is the same address that ACM will read just fine. Okay, so keep that in mind. So here's again, I'm gonna beat this horse to death today. So Mercury MR62, once again, if you wanna put 4 readers in there, sure you can. Again, in and out readers. You have to be, so it's good for 2 doors, 4 readers, 2 doors, in and out readers. Okay, and please provide power locally. Okay, I'm really beating the horse to death. MR62E also only support OSDP. It was a strange move from HID, but I guess I can understand. And Mercury, they want to really, encourage everyone to use OSDP, and I should enforce that as well. I think it's a good move if you can go ahead and do that. All right, the poll has been sitting in there for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and close that now. Thanks so much for your participation, and it's a pretty even poll. That's very nice. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the templates here in ACM real quick, just to give you a sense for how this is configured in ACM. So if you go and look in ACM here, so let's maximize this guy for a second. you will see that when you configure a reader using our template, so I can go in my templates, and here you will see that mine has a little bit different ones, but if you go and configure that, you will see that the reader or the door has templates already configured to do your wiring for OSDP. Is the default right there in our reader. Okay, so here is the reader. Here it is, OSDP, and we even have with the different addresses. By default will be this one, address 0. Okay, so I have a Wigan reader, and I want to change that reader, and I want to change that to OSDP because, hey, I just found out that this reader, I'm replacing that. How do I do that? Or I'm adding that. It's pretty easy. You're gonna go to pick a reader. Okay, going to the hardware right here, and go under the reader port itself, clicking the pencil here. You can also do that through the controller, through the panel, and you can come over here, and then you will change this from, in my case, shows custom. You go to OSDP right there. Okay, so when you do OSDP, then you can come down here and put address 0. Okay, bidirectional communication. You might want to check that as well, depending on the reader, and then you hit save. That's it. So it's not a whole lot different. So simpler to wire, right? So 4 wire instead of 6, and configuration is actually quite simple as well. So if you're wiring one OSDP per port, that's pretty much it. If you're doing different ones, then for each reader, you're going to pick a different reader port, different reader address. Okay. For that, once again, if you have that situation, please contact us because it does require a little bit more cautious in how you're doing. There is a combination between reader ports as well. So contact us and we'll help you with that information. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the presentation here. So that's the template, pretty easy. If you're installing a new system, and I'm going to go ahead and deploy 64 doors, I'm using maybe an HID RP40, for example. If you're doing that, or RPK, or a reader that has mobile capabilities, OSDP is going to come in and enable by default. Wire like that, go in a template and just deploy 64 doors, and they will be already configured for OSDP address 0. Super simple to configure at that point. Okay, and does provide you longer distance for the wiring, so it's a pretty good setup. All right, so let's take a look here. So practical applications for that. What is the practical applications? First of all, elevator control. I think that's probably one of the best for this. So if you look at elevator control, I have a skyscraper and I got 30, 40 floors. I don't know, some tall order. Remember that the wire that goes in there and the travel cable inside the elevator is a pretty long wire because it's a loop. It goes all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom and back up, right? So if you consider a standard reader, a standard Wigan reader, right, it's 500 feet maximum distance. That could be a problem. So now I need to put a controller, a subcontroller inside the cab. I'm going to need to provide power to that. I'm going to need to provide communication data line to that as well, right? If I do an OSDP reader, all I have to do is run 2 wires into that travel cable, which sometimes is a problem as well, getting the number of wires in there. So I can run that and can go up to 4,000 feet. And all I'm going to do is just power that reader locally inside the cab, grab power from the cab itself. Okay, much easier. It's a very good application. Reader LED control. I'm going to show you this now in a second here. LED control is pretty good on that. You can control the LED just using OSDP, encryption communication, and again, wiring, right? From 6 wires on a Wigan to down to 4 wires on OSDP. So let me go ahead and show you a couple of things in here. So this is my kit that's sitting up here in my network. And I'm going to move this guy. This keeps tricking me. Here, you come this way. So my mouse is acting up on me. There you go, right there. You stay right over here. All right, so here's my panels. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you something that you should be taking advantage today in your readers. Okay. So bunch of different readers in here. So here's some of the readers that are compatible with that today. So this is you're probably using OSDP. Don't even know it today. Verdi reader does require OSDP. So we wired them OSDP. Here's the other Verdi reader that requires OSDP as well. Okay. MTK15 from Allegiant does support that. MT11 does support that as well. But I'm going to talk about this reader. So this is an RPK40 from HID with mobile enabled. Okay. You notice that right now it's showing red. Okay. Red LED. Very quickly here, I'm going to go ahead and go into that reader. And let's, here's my reader right here. Okay. I got LED control. So first thing I'm going to do is this. So let's say I train my people in my company to say that when the reader is showing red, that means you can do card or pin. You can either present your card or present or punch a pin number and you get access to the door. But now if I, during the night, I reconfigure this with a global action and a schedule or some other functionality, and I change that to card and pin, then what's going to happen is my reader now changes color to yellow. Notice I haven't done anything. I've just changed the door mode in here. Because I have this Mercury LED control, I can now change colors in this reader as I need it throughout the day to give people visual indication of things. So for example, here's one that I think is the best use of this. And I can do this through a command for, let's say, a lockdown. So if I'm going to a lockdown, let's say I have reader LED code number 3 here for lockdown, my reader then is going to flash red and orange. So that gives an indication that I have a situation that people need to be aware of, right? It's right there today. You can take advantage of this today. All you have to do is configure the readers for OSDP, and you do some configuration here in the Mercury LED. I'll show you real quick just so you get a sense for that. We got 10 minutes. I want to open up for questions. But so this is my first mode right there, my table. So you got 3 tables that you can choose from, and then depending on wiring, right? So I was showing you that my card or pin is set for red on red. So that means on and off color will be red. So this is basically switching colors on and off, and I'm choosing which colors I want in a different table. If I'm doing card and pin, then I wanted a yellow. I could choose green as well. You can pick one of those 3 colors. Okay, today is limited to those 3 colors. And depending on type of event, I can even do beeps. Okay, and this will all coming through OSDP as well. Okay, so that's one. Now, the one that you see on screen right now is my table 3 right here. That's what I set my reader for, and is this option right here. My reader is set to card or pin or card and pin. Really doesn't matter. I'm using this for lockdowns, and the reader will switch, will be flashing between between yellow and red. If I want to change color, pretty simple. Just gonna go here and I'm gonna change those 2 because I think I still have it set. Click that. And that's the change of color right there. So now is in orange, in green and red. Okay, back to it. I'm gonna put it back the way I had it before. It's that simple. Okay, so again, this is something that you can take advantage today. So it's a pretty handy, easy thing to do right there, and you can see that. Here's another thing that I was mentioning before. So if you have your reader, let's see if I can show this on screen here. So here is my reader. Okay, if I do a twist and go, the door just open up. Okay, just like that. I don't know if you can see the green is right there. It's not coming up very well on this screen. Let me switch here for back to my reader. 1 second here. Let me put it back to your normal operation of that reader so you can actually see this better. And then we'll go ahead and, yeah, so let's do card or pin. Oops, card or pin. Save that. And that whole flashing there is difficult to see as well. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to normal operation. All right, so that's the reader right there. So once again, here's my reader, my card. I can just go do this. And now you see that going into opening, right? Other thing that I can do as well, now I have my reader in my pocket. Let's see if I can show this without tripping my wires here in my camera.
Hey, Francisco, I think we lost your audio.
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Oh, okay. I guess I went too far away and disconnect my mic without seeing it. All right. Before we go, so this is what I want to show you. I want to launch this last poll here. Let's see if we did something for you today. So if you could answer that, we would appreciate. Once again, it's an interesting technology. I really don't see why people are not using it today. It doesn't cost you more. Depends on the reader, let's say. It doesn't cost you more. It's somewhat easier to configure, less wires, and thus provide more capabilities. You've seen it. I can change reader colors, something that we were not tapping before, right? So it's pretty interesting information, pretty interesting things that you can do just with that visual indication, right? Once again, look, I'm gonna go here and just change my reader right there to card and pin, and now you should, and save it. And now you're gonna see that change in card there, right there. Very easy, right? So now the customer can utilize those colors to give people visual indication of some things, right? All right. Thanks for answering the polls. It's very interesting, the results. We're liking the results. So contact us if you have questions. Do we have any questions? I figure you guys probably answered them all, but is anything that we need to address?
I think we got everything, Francisco. We'll give it another couple minutes here and see if anybody wants to chime in with any additional questions. And yes, for everybody on the call, when the meeting is over with and the recording is done, you will get a link to the recorded webinar today. I also encourage you all to grab the PowerPoint out of the handouts there, so you can see the wiring diagrams and a lot of the other good information in there. The only other thing that's not a question on here from a partner, but did you get an opportunity to talk about secure channel at all? Do we want to cover that,
Very
or maybe
briefly,
save that
very
for another
briefly.
one?
I was trying to keep this. So if anyone needs to talk about secure channel, that's what I said. So now to enable secure channel in the app, right? So that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
It's a little bit more involving. Please get in contact with us. We just don't have enough time in an hour meeting to dive into some of those details. Just be aware, is there? We are capable of doing that. Just get in contact with us. We'll provide you more information on how to do it.
Yep.
Okay.
We just got a question from Lloyd. Do OSDP readers cover all types of cards, so credentials?
No, it's just a communication. It's just a wire. So really depends on what reader you selecting, right? To support that reader technology, that card technology, I should say. Think about about this is this OSDP is just the way you're transmitting the information. That's all what it is. Okay. It gives you more flexibility, right? Bi-directional communication, as you can see the LEDs in here. But that has not changed, right? So it's whatever the reader can support. So in this case here, this reader is a multi-technology reader. If this reader was just iClass, then I would only be able to present iClass reader, and this would be converted and send it in through the OSDP line into the reader port. Okay. So no, it does not change. It doesn't, in the reader technology or card technology formatting, doesn't add anything different to it. Any other questions? All right, we got 3 minutes. Let's find out what is our next webinar, Wednesday. Rob, you on the line? What do you have for us?
No.
All right, I don't think I got him probably off. I got him a surprise probably, or he's still in mute. All right, let's take a quick look here. Jared, do you know what? See if you can pull up the list there. See what is our next one.
I'm trying to
You're
actually.
doing that right now. I figure. Yeah, I hear you clicking.
Let's not for 2 attendees. I don't remember. How about that?
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna say then. It is a surprise meeting. Actually, if you got the meeting invites, we actually had that information in there. We sent that out.
A really good topic. I actually did just find it. Elevator control. So
That's
we did
right.
talk a little bit about that today. In elevator control. So Wednesday at noon Central Time, Rob will be talking about that.
Elevator control.
And then Friday,
What are you
I'll
doing
be
Friday?
covering ACM licensing.
All right. So again, Mondays, noon Eastern. Noon Eastern. Wednesdays, noon Central Time. Central. And Friday, noon Pacific Time. Okay. All right, we're finishing this up with 1 minute to spare. Thank you so much for everyone. Any other questions there? I think we got it, right? We're covered.
Yep, I think we got them.
Yeah,
Oh
I
wait,
think we're good.
how's OSDP different than the Cantech RS-45 comp for the RS-4? So it is Cantech uses a proprietary RS-485 communication. So same thing, it's still just RS-485. However, they add a little bit of extra code in there to work with their controller specifically. We, as far as I know, Francisco, I haven't done any testing with their readers in ACM. However, I don't think that those are going to be compatible directly with a Mercury controller.
No.
We need to get our hands on,
Yeah.
get our hands on them and see
Yeah.
how they are. So
Yeah, I was never very successful with a Camtech. They pretty much close very, tied in proprietary, even the card formatting and everything. So yeah, it's pretty hard on that one.
yep,
So
absolutely.
we use standard OSDP. We don't change anything to it. It's just the standards as they came out from the CIA organization. Okay, folks, 1 o'clock. That's it. Thanks so much for coming. We appreciate that. Hope to see you on Wednesday to talk about elevator control. Again, Wednesday will be noon Central Time. Hope to see you all there. Thanks so much for coming. Have a good day.